What's up, y'all? It's your boy Sean P back again with another weekend edition of Hip Hop Roundtable Reviews. So today, we're gonna go a little bit in depth with a discussion or a debate that's been going on. Really, started with Punch TDE's from TDE, Punch TDE, who is behind Kendrick Lamar and behind TDE. You know, the main manager behind them, about some of his Twitter comments and how they have been interpreted on the internet. First, I'm going to take a look at how his comments are, his Twitter comments have been interpreted regarding around the new Clipse album and around the new Clipse project that's coming out, the songs that have come out, the mini beef between him and Travis Scott, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm going to go in depth as to, is there really a civil war going on between basically hip hop culture? Is there a hip hop culture war going on? And I'm going to speak to what I think really are the two, entities that are going at each other right now. I think people are see, the thing about it is I think that hip hop media is really trying to twist things and twist narratives into determining what side is going against what side, and obviously this started with Kendrick and Drake last year, but now it seems that this divide has gone in so many different directions. And now this year is involving the Clipse, Travis Scott, and pseudo Drake. You know what I mean? So now there's somewhat of a new beef that has morphed into, and now the Clipse seem to be the main catalyst behind this. So we're going to break that all down. I'm going to start with Jalopy Bungus. Yeah, that's his name. Shout out to Jalopy Bungus. Yeah. And definitely check his podcast out when you get a chance. And we're going to break down his comments regarding a possible hip hop civil war and sides that are being, determined or lines drawn in the sand between a select group of artists. So let's talk about it.
Divide in hip hop right now. I want to reference a tweet that Punch had put on Twitter not that long ago that covers a very much larger conversation. And that's the fact that Punch is stating the divide in hip hop is insane. It's like it's two different ideologies. The battle may have been the catalyst, but it feels like it's been bubbling for a while. No matter what the topic is, you can tell clearly who falls on what side. Is referencing the things that we have been talking about on this channel for a while now. The fact that this battle and this whole situation that we're witnessing in this country is much bigger than diss tracks and hip hop. There is a clear divide. This is because there is a shift in our energy. There is a shift in our reality. And the old reality is fighting to stay within existence. This is happening everywhere. It might be happening in your life right now. It might be happening to you. It goes on to say
Okay, I'm going to start with that comment right there. I do think there is a dramatic shift in tribal culture, And now, of course, we get this tribal culture from the political landscape in this country between the right and the left, far right, far left. And that has been going on for, almost going on 10 years now, going back through 2 elections. But I don't think it's so much political, and he's going to speak to that in a minute. I do think there is a clear divide as to how people view hip hop, how people look and consume hip hop and view culture. Hip hop culture is totally divided right now. I do think that the Kendrick and Drake beef started this. But the thing I think about, This has been going on for a while now. This has been going on from the mumble rap culture to the lyrical hip hop culture. You know what I mean? And it's been going on for a while, and it's been secretly, been battling out on the internet blogs, on the hip hop blogs, on the hip hop Facebook discussion groups, on Twitter, hip hop Twitter discussion groups. It's been going on for a while now. And I'm going to tell you where the two elements of the culture are two elements that are going at each other in a minute, But let's get into a little bit more what Jalapi's saying here regarding this divide. But there is an absolute clear divide, and hip hop culture is totally split right now. Like many other things in our country, it definitely is a tribal culture between two sides. Let's take a look at some more.
Depending on which side was taken in the battle, the same group of people, like the same sports star, the same politician, had the same stance on whatever issue. It's like a social experiment. I 1000% agree with Punch. I think that's why it's so hard for a lot of people to have nuanced conversations when it comes to this battle. And not only for the battle, but in general. People can't have nuanced conversations about politics, nuanced conversations about really anything. It's either black and white, and that's because there is a clear divide going on. Which brings.
So let me talk about the nuanced conversations piece that he spoke on. That's created by the internet. That's created by Twitter, by internet culture. I think in general, since Twitter, which is now X, Facebook, all of this, and of course, it's headlined by our political culture. You can't have nuanced conversations. You can't have a conversation with somebody where maybe somebody doesn't agree with you on your stance on hip hop, but they can respect it and say, well, this is how I view hip hop. This is how I listen to music. Nuance is totally taken out of it. Now, to categorize people as to the same people on each side, has the same sports, likes the same sports star, politician, et cetera, I don't really necessarily agree with that. I think he's trying to go into, well, one guy likes Michael Jordan, the other guy likes LeBron James, or one guy likes Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, whatever you're saying. I don't see that. I think hip hop is specific and a specific entity onto its own, where I don't think it delves into, well, if you line up on, a Republican side, that means you're going to like Drake or Kendrick Lamar or Jay-Z or whatever. I don't think it gets into that. It goes that deep. I think Jalapi's going off a little bit on a tangent with that. But again, I do think there are two sides. You know what I mean? Now, how do you delineate the two sides is the question. But let's talk a little bit more about it. And let's talk about where he's going to explain more about what one side of artists would basically separate itself from the other. Let's take a look.
Brings me to the title of this video. And clearly, very clearly, the hip hop Avengers have come together, bro. And I call them the hip hop Avengers because you talking about Clipse, you talking about Pharrell, you talking about Kendrick Lamar, you talking about Jay-Z, Nas. This is ridiculous right here. And these guys are working very closely right now under this Clipse album. Now, the Kendrick Lamar Drake battle was obviously the line that was drawn in the sand. I think both sides made their point very clear, and that's what we got. But when you look at this Clipse album, it's almost like another flag is being planted in the sand. That's why, while Clipse has always been culturally relevant, I think this is the most important album of their entire career, because this album is going to set the precipice of where hip hop is going next. I'm trying to tell y'all right now, based on the reception, the cultural impact, and the performance of this album, hip hop is going to take a completely different turn in the coming years. And I believe this is why the hip hop avengers have assembled. It's to let the people know, letting each of these fan bases that come from the core of our essence, the core of hip hop, that we are back. That the
Okay, so let me stop it there real quick. Let me get out of this. But so a lot to chew on right there. This is basically what I see that's happening, and I'll start with the Clipse album. There is definitely a tone to this Clipse album. If you haven't heard the first couple of songs, that they are representatives of traditional hip hop, lyrical hip hop, the classic version of hip hop. And they're going to get to the other side of it. But I think with this hip hop that's coming out on the Clipse album, I do see that the traditional hip hop fans are gravitating towards this album. Now, you're saying, how does Nas and Jay-Z and Kendrick and play into this? Nas is really rumored to be featured on the album. I believe that a track got leaked where a verse on the Clipse album is already on it. So Nas is on there. Jay-Z is rumored to be on there. Kendrick Lamar obviously is on there after we went over what happened with, Clipse leaving Def Jam to get the verse on their album on the Rock Nation imprint. And Pharrell is the executive producer. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole beef with Travis Scott and all of that, but I think there are two sides that you see lining up here. I think you see the traditional hip hop fan, which represents the 30 and over hip hop fan, that has traditional hip hop values. They look at, an artist to have classic songs, classic albums. They listen to albums in their full. You know what I mean? They listen to full albums. Timeless music. Grammy awards may matter, and certain awards may matter. Critical acclaim matters, and not so much record sales and streaming. They look at, creativity on albums, lyrical content, good lyrics, good flows. Like, that's a traditional hip hop fan. Now, the other hip hop fan that I think is going at the other faction or hip hop fan that's going at the traditional hip hop fan are the new streaming viral era culture, which represents maybe the 30 and under hip hop fans. They care more about viral hits, stream numbers, record sales, basically social media content. Does these artists have a big social media following? Fashion, is this artist that they support, do they have big stand bases? Big groups that no matter what this artist puts out, it's cool because we just want to support this artist. Many of these under 30 hip hop fans, they don't really listen to the music. They're more about supporting a brand and supporting an artist just because. As long as they like a couple songs from this artist, maybe like 4 or 5 songs, that artist is the greatest of all time to them. You know what I mean? They just like this artist's brand and they want to be part of a groupthink culture. You know what I mean? Being part of a side. So you see the two different sides dividing up hip hop right now. But I think it's more of an age thing where it's 30 and over traditional hip hop fans and 30 and under, streaming viral online culture hip hop fans that are really going at each other. The Drake and Kendrick battle was the start of this, or I thought really brought this to the surface, And I think that the Clipse album is another launch point to even divide the hip hop fans even more because of the aggressive nature of this album. But let's talk a little bit more and let's see what Jalopy has to say about this topic a little bit more. Let's go.
Feel is restored, that the energy that you came up with is back. And there's no better way to stamp that than to bring all of these legends who have done numerous things for this culture, numerous things for the advancement of hip hop together in this moment. And to prove that this allegiance is clear as day, we can look at the events leading up to the Louis Vuitton show that happened today. For example, Clipse and Pharrell have recorded their entire album in Paris. They made this extremely clear. And you telling me
which I think is actually a good thing. I think when artists go to exotic locations or different locations to record a whole album, usually that means that album is going to be pretty good to great. But we'll explore more about the Paris connection with all of this, which I think may be a little bit of a reach, but we'll talk about it.
The very next time we see Jay-Z in years on a performance is a surprise pop out with Beyonce. Where? In Paris. Not only that, this is 2 weeks before the Clipse album drops. Not only that, Kendrick Lamar and SZA are performing in Paris 4 days after the Clipse album drops. That don't seem kind of coordinated to y'all? I'm just wondering. Don't get me started on everybody that's out in Paris right now that got interesting connections to each other. You got AZ Chike out there. Jay-Z and Beyonce pulled up to the Louis Vuitton show. Freddie Gibbs is out there. Bro, it's a lot of MCs out there. Who knows? And while I was recording this, it just got announced that Rick Ross and Pharrell are dropping a video this month. And guess where it was shot? In Paris. You can't tell me there isn't a clear allegiance being built here. And we've been talking about this for a minute now. And that makes you do it.
So back to what he's saying. He's basically trying to say that Paris is the new place for the hip hop renaissance. The real hip hop renaissance, which I think is a bit of a reach. I think it's kind of a coincidence that everybody was in the same area within the last month or so. But I do think that a lot of the people that were aligned or seen with each other, do represent, over 30 hip hop and the real hip hop movement. You know what I mean? And again, I go back to saying that, and from what I hear, Jay-Z, Freddie Gibbs, they've heard the album. They've had listening parties, out there. But I do think that it's a bit of a reach to say that they all coordinated this to save real hip hop, He's almost pouring all of the energy into this Clipse album like it's going to bring back the real, bring back lyrical traditional hip hop to the mainstream over the viral TikTok version of one hit wonder culture hip hop that's kind of in the mainstream now. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think you're going to see, and you started to see it with Kendrick Lamar bringing back, West Coast culture, traditional West Coast rap back into the mainstream, and more lyrical and hip hop that focuses more on lyrics, content, and flows, more so than harmonization and gimmicks and basically, mumble rap. You know what I mean? I do see that happening, but I don't see real hip hop coming back or traditional hip hop coming back to dominate mainstream culture again. And we'll talk more about it. It's because of the age divide. But let's get back to it.
A double take. Like, hold on. There's also been another allegiance building on the other side. And we've been talking about this allegiance too. They made their allegiance so obvious. People like myself been talking about it since July of 2024, bruh. And just like Punch said in that tweet, it almost feels political to where all three of these individuals have some type of adjacent assimilation with the right. Not just them, it's their fan bases. When you see the fan bases of Drake and Kanye West specifically, a lot of these guys are like younger Gen Z MAGA types. Now, their fan bases are.
Okay, I want to talk to that. There's actually a lot to speak on that. Now, first off, I don't think, and I spoke on the affiliation with Drake and 50 Cent in previous times or whatever, in a previous video. But I don't think Drake, 50 Cent, and Kanye West are connected in any way. But I do think when it comes to Drake, I do think the 30 and under hip hop fan have gravitated towards Drake as being the savior for, streaming viral, one hit wonder culture hip hop. You know what I mean? Where they only care about viral hits. They only care about microwave music. They don't listen to albums. They only listen to singles. They only care about what your streaming numbers are. All of these, well, Drake has a billion streams on this or whatever. And that's the younger hip hop fan base. Now, I don't think Kanye West and 50 Cent are too connected to Drake like that. I still think Kanye West and Drake still have their differences. I think 50 wanted to support Drake to spite his other ops like Rick Ross and like some of the people who are going against Drake. But I don't think 50 is really affiliated with this. As to the whole MAGA conversation, I don't think this is political in any kind of way. I think the younger generation, they've kind of younger people have kind of gone away from politics. I think they're tired of politics and they want to go in another direction, and that's why they come to hip hop. But what I will say is, as far as the online media culture, I see a lot of the online media streamers and media culture pundits, if you will, trying to gravitate towards Drake. But Drake's not going to them. They're going to Drake because they're anti-establishment, because they affiliate that they think they see Kendrick Lamar as being part of the establishment because he's the golden boy now. So they're automatically going to Drake just because he's anti-establishment. Namely, Aiden Ross, who is a diehard Trump supporter, and also DJ Academics, who's been known to have far right ideologies and also is anti-establishment. From the podcast he's gone on, from Fresh and Fit to No Jumper to wherever, you know what I mean? So I do see streaming culture that is affiliated with certain political entities going towards Drake. But I don't think Drake is affiliating himself politically in any type of way or any type of form. And I don't really think the younger hip hop fans are really making it a political issue too. So I think that Jalape's doing a bit of a reach on this one.
Are a wide range, don't get me wrong. But if you ever see debates or arguments for these guys or anybody going to bat for them, it's usually somebody on that side. And then you think about people like Young Thug who have openly expressed what side of the sand they stay on. You think about people like Lil Baby who have openly expressed what side of the stand they stand on. There's definitely a war going on in the industry, and there's been a war going on in this music industry, dog. There's a shift happening, just like I said in the beginning of the video, where the new ways of being, the new ways of life are trying to make themselves apparent. But the old version of a life, the old way of life, wants to pull it back so that it can't. That's something that a lot is the energy of the world right now. Whether it's outside of you, it's physical, spiritual. You see countries, you see wherever you look, that divide is extremely clear because we.
Okay, I think that's enough for now as far as Jalape's video, and I think that was a very well done video. I mean, shout out to Jalape on that. Definitely check his YouTube channel out. But to sum that up, he brought up Little Baby. He brought up Young Thug, who has aligned themselves with Drake. Other artists like Little Uzi Vert, which a lot of these rappers were quote unquote termed mumble rappers. I've even seen Future come back to kind of distance himself from the Like That record and kind of almost take Drake's side and more defend Drake now since that, who Future has his own wave and movement. But this is what I see is happening. Those artists are a certain type of artists that run behind the new culture. All they care about is songs and viral hits. That is microwave music. And the traditional hip hop culture wants to go back to the way it was, where albums are now celebrated, classic projects are celebrated, critical acclaim is celebrated, and your lyrics, your content, and creativity matter. I see this Clipse album, and just from the reception of their songs, from Ace Trumpets to So Be It, you see the divide getting even greater now. I think that, especially with younger hip hop fans, and see, this is the problem. Younger hip hop fans just want to be part of the groupthink culture. So they're joining the side of Drake and Young Thug and Little Baby and these type of artists just because they want to pick a side. They don't care how great Drake's album is. Some of those young fans, they might not even know all of maybe 2 or 3 Drake albums. They don't know Drake So Far Gone. They don't know Thank Me Later. You know what I mean? But they just want to pick Drake's side to spite the fact that he doesn't represent older hip hop. He doesn't represent the traditional hip hop music. And the problem with this is younger hip hop fans don't listen to hip hop. They're not listening or giving the other side, older hip hop artists like Nas, like Clipse, like Jay-Z, a chance. You know what I mean? So they don't even say, all right, well, the Clipse, like, who are they? What did they do? You know what I mean? Why don't I go listen to Lord Willin'? Or you know what I mean? Or Till the Casket Drops. They don't want to give that a chance. They just want to pick a side. And see, on top of that, streamers and podcast content creators like DJ Academics, you know, like an Aiden Ross, who have a clear hold on the youth because the youth go to them. They're the ones trying to tear down older hip hop. They're the ones trying to tear down Jay-Z and Rock Nation and put out Rock Nation conspiracy theories out there, like DJ Academics. They're the ones trying to pump up, pump up, viral ideologies or viral content for Jim Jones trying to tear down Nas's legacy. They're the ones that are coming with this. So the younger generation of hip hop fans, it's almost like the 30 and under streaming culture. They're going to them to listen to them instead of saying, you know what? Let me listen to the music. Let me find out how great or good Nas is. Let me really find out and see how great a rapper Pusha T is or the Clipse. You know what I mean? And see, that's the problem. And not on the other side, on the 30 and over, I think Kendrick Lamar brought a lot of real hip hop fans who have turned off the mainstream back to the mainstream. They've come back to Kendrick Lamar since Not Like Us and since GNX and gotten them back in. So what you're seeing is the hip hop fan bases and hip hop culture is getting more divided, but each side is getting bigger, you know? So you're seeing 2 forms of hip hop music and 2 forms of hip hop ideology as to how great hip hop is, you know what I mean? Or what you think hip hop is and represents. You're seeing those sides grow. So what I think is going to happen is you're going to see a split in hip hop pretty soon. You're going to have traditional hip hop, which is traditional contemporary hip hop. And then you're going to have something called new age streaming hip hop. And I think you're going to see a split. You may see different radio stations, different content, because it's clear that each side is kind of shut off their ways of viewing the other side. You know what I mean? The ways of viewing 30 and under culture. I mean, this whole Nas and Jim Jones, you know, uh, pseudo beef, if you will, kind of has exposed all of that. You know what I mean? Where such a reach was taken from Jim Jones and that 22-year-old kid, which I both have videos on. Check those out on Hip Hop Roundtable Reviews. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. But the thing about it is that was just part of the social experiment where people are trying to put cultures out there or put narratives out there as to how divided we are. And that basically shows that. If there's any take-home message from that, from a hip-hop kid, a 22-year-old kid not knowing Nas outside of NBA 2K, that goes to show you what's going on here. So shout out to Jalopy for this. This is a very well done video, even though I think he kind of went off on some tangents. And shout out to Punch TDE for pointing out the divide in the hip hop culture. But yes, I do see this. Now, do I think the Clipse album is going to bring back, quote, real hip hop? No. I think it's going to make older hip hop fans want to come back to mainstream hip hop. I know some of my friends who are of a certain age, you know, they're 35, 40 and over. All they're doing is talking about this Clipse album. It's going to be interesting to see what this Clipse album does or what have you. But it's going to be real interesting to see if it goes number one on the charts or whatever. But a lot of traditional hip hop fans are lining up for this Clipse album due to the artistic content on here. And it does have a classic buzz around it. But again, the younger hip hop fans, they just look at it like, oh, that's a clout chasing album, because it's not supporting or it's going against what their, demigod Drake is doing, and instead of really listening to hip hop, instead they're going off and they're just saying, well, we're not going to support clout chasing or support art, in their terminology. We just want to listen to what we want on our side, and fuck you if you're doing it on the other side. You know what I mean? And see, that's the problem, and that's where more nuanced conversation has to be come into hip hop. Punch TDE recently put out some statements about we need more unity in hip hop. You know what I mean? We need people to, somewhat alluding to, hear each other's side out and basically saying we didn't create this. You know what I mean? This was due or the aftermath of the battle. But here goes DJ Academics going back at Punch TDE, basically saying, bro, you're the one that caused this. You know what I mean? You're the ones that put out Not Like Us, when Not Like Us had nothing to do with condemning people who, listen to Drake. All that's saying is Kendrick Lamar didn't fuck with some people in the industry and you're not real like us. That's it. But it didn't say you need to stop listening to Drake. And here goes DJ Academic with the spin machine again. And of course, the younger hip hop fans, what do they want to do? They're going to listen to the spin machine and not the music. It's almost like streamers like DJ Academics and Aiden Ross matter more to younger under 30 hip hop listeners than actually listening to the music and see, I wonder how great Kendrick Lamar really is. Let me go back and listen to Section 80, To Pimp a Butterfly. Let me judge that for myself, and maybe I like it. Maybe I want to diversify my hip hop here. You know what I mean? So in the end of the day, tell me what you think. Do you think that there is a hip hop civil war going on? Do you think that the Clipse album is going to be another extension of this civil war, or round two in this salvo between older and younger hip hop fans? And do you think the divide is between 30 and over and 30 and under hip hop fans and how they view hip hop and their ideologies. So it's a deep topic, y'all. Definitely like, share, subscribe. Tell me in the comments what you think. Is there a hip hop civil war going on? And are we ever going to come together as one hip hop community once again? So enjoy the rest of y'all weekend, and I'll catch up with y'all with some new content soon. All right, peace.